Have you ever wondered what it's like to live in Western North Carolina, or what even Western North Carolina has to offer? Today we're exploring the pros and the cons of living right here. Hi, I'm Beth Schadler with Living in Asheville, and I'm a realtor with Tried and True Realty, powered by EXP, and we help you think and feel what it's like to live and work and eat, sleep, and play in Asheville, North Carolina. We help people move all the time to the area, and we're glad to help you as well. It's our passion and our pleasure, so reach out. So today we're talking about the pros and the cons of living in Western North Carolina. I mean, who wants to live in Western North Carolina anyway? So, what is Western North Carolina? Well, it's comprised of 23 different counties, about the same size as Massachusetts per se, so it's kind of big. There's the far west, which is the Appalachian Mountains. So that includes like the area they call the Land of the Sky, which is the Asheville area. And then there is the high country, which is the Boone, North Carolina area, and Blowing Rock, Chimney Rock, places like that. And then there is the foothills, which is the Piedmont region, includes Hickory and Hendersonville, all of that space down there. So one of the things about Western North Carolina is that there's no real big city. I mean, the biggest city in Western North Carolina is Asheville. The big city of Asheville with 95,000 people. Still considered a city, but really feels like a town mostly. The other next biggest one is Hickory, North Carolina, which is well known for furniture, at least it was back in the day before IKEA. And one of the pros of living in Western North Carolina is that there are thousands of tiny little towns that all offer a certain sense of charm and beauty on their own. Some of them have their own little main streets and like places to visit and cute little arts and crafts stores and great breweries and restaurants, and they all have their own flair and a different feel, and of course a different community as well. Places like Boone that are known for the university and for skiing, and like Hendersonville, which is a retirement capital of the USA. And then there's Lenoir and Morganton and Waynesville, Maggie Valley area, and Cherokee, where there's a lot of Native American history. And then if you think about the smaller towns nearby in Western North Carolina that have those main streets and have their own distinct personality, you could look at places like Black Mountain, Sugar Mountain, Chimney Rock, Mars Hill, Marshall, Spruce Pine, Old Fort. So a con of living in Western North Carolina is that there's mountains everywhere. I mean, that might not be everybody's cup of tea. And the southern and western part of Western North Carolina is the Appalachian Mountains. Mount Mitchell being the highest point east of the Mississippi. So to get from point A to point B might not always be so easy. There are windy roads and it can be hard to get to. You might want to have four-wheel drive to be able to be fully mobile and go all the places that you want. Sometimes there can be some snow, not so much where we are in Asheville, but higher up, you kind of have to have some experience driving on icy conditions, and which could also lead to power outages and snow days and parents going, "Why are my kids home again?" Things like that. And sometimes where we live, the power goes out for no reason at all. You could just kind of have a heavy wind and then boom, you're out of power for a day or two. And I thought that would happen more in the winter, thinking that it would be ice or snow, but actually it happens more in the summer. And then I have a problem because all of my food in the freezer is defrosting. So a lot of people have backup generators just in case. We don't yet, but it's on the plan. So a pro of living in Western North Carolina includes the same topic as before, but it's the views. I cannot help every time I go over a hill, like coming down on 26 towards Asheville or going west into Candler, and those mountains pop up into view and they are blue and purple and majestic, and it blows me away every time. It takes my breath away. I never get tired of it. You know, like how you live in a place for a while and they're like, yeah, I've seen that before, and you don't even notice it anymore? This is not one of those things. The views in Asheville blow me away daily. And there are so many places to see them. I mean, if you travel along the Blue Ridge Parkway, which goes all through Western North Carolina and all the way up to Virginia or where, ever. I can't remember where it ends, but there's lots of overlooks on the parkway and 82 different mountain peaks between 5,000 and 6,000 feet in elevation, and 43 peaks even rise above the thick 6,000 mark. So one of the cons of living in Western North Carolina is that there's lots of water. So it can be a pro and a con, huh? There's lots of water. It rains a lot. It is considered a rainforest, Western North Carolina is. It is lush, it is green, it is beautiful and majestic, but it can be wet. It's not that it rains every single day, but when it rains, it could rain for a day and a half, and you have this like sticky, muddy mess. And that's a real bummer when you're camping. But also, there's tons of waterfalls and rivers, and it's a kayaker's paradise, and canoeing and tubing and everything that you can think of. If you have little kids, you will definitely be tuned into that, because kids love to play with the rocks and move them around in the river, and they can spend all day at the beach per se. But also with rivers comes a little bit of danger, right? So con on that one, because safety is a concern. The main thing that we have here is flooding. That's our biggest danger that we have, really, when we think about climate and weather emergencies. We don't have tornadoes because of the mountains. We don't have hurricanes because we're not on the coast. We don't have a lot of forest fires or fires in general because we're quite damp here, but we do have a lot of water. So you want to make sure when you're thinking about relocating to the area that you kind of are on a hill. I would not necessarily say I would buy a house in a floodplain or even 100-year floodplain, because weather is so unpredictable now, we just don't know what's going to happen. So on the same hand, a pro of living in Western North Carolina, hello, all the rivers, all the nature, all the outdoors. It's absolutely spectacular. There are mountains and rivers and lakes everywhere. And they're really easily accessible. So, I mean, you can really pull your car up to a lot of trails, walk a little bit, see beautiful scenic views, or take in a wonderful waterfall or swimming hole on an afternoon that you only had to drive like 30 minutes to get there. It's a great place for anyone that loves the outdoors, like boating on a lake or rafting, kayaking or hiking, mountain biking, camping, fishing. There's just so many different possibilities, and even skiing. I mean, if you want to go skiing in Western North Carolina, you still can at Wolf Laurel. That's not far away at all, or the Boone area is wonderful for skiing. Pro, we have a lot of national parks, which goes hand in hand with the outdoors. We have Mount Mitchell in the Pisgah National Forest, which is a land of mile-high peaks and cascading waterfalls, and there's just so much action to see and be a hold of. And as we know, the closer we are to nature, the more at peace we typically are. So that reflects on our daily quality of life as well, living in Western North Carolina. And the Pisgah National Forest has over 500,000 acres of hardwood forest. It's really quite unbelievable how massive it is and how close it is. And nearby, we also have the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So, of course, we probably know about this area in eastern Tennessee, but it's world-renowned for its diversity in plant and animal life. And when you think about the mountains in Western North Carolina and you think, why do they look so different than like Colorado or Montana and these big peaks that are jagged and huge? It's because our mountains are really, really old. I compare them to the curves of a woman, and they're just so absolutely gorgeous and ancient, and they have deep, deep history. And if you think about the French Broad River, it's the second oldest river in the world, next to the Nile. And then there's the Nantahala region, and Nantahala is in western North Carolina, and it's a Cherokee word that means land of the noonday sun. And it means that because it's situated in a gorge, so really it only gets sunlight in the middle of the day around noon to maybe 3 o'clock, and then it gets quite frigid. So those rivers have a little bit of a different temperature than the rest. And we have the Cherokee National Forest. And this forest is home to 30 developed campgrounds. That's a lot of camping opportunities and different picnic areas and 700 miles of trails, 7 whitewater rivers, and Forest Service trails galore. So you can enjoy a scenic drive through the mountains and check out the wildlife, go down a river, do some whitewater rafting, and then spend a night under the stars, followed up with a nice morning hike. So we mentioned skiing before, and one of the cons is really, we're not known for like world-class skiing. This is not like the Rockies or the Swiss Alps, and you probably already know that before even watching this video. But we do have some pretty cool ski areas, and so if you are an enthusiast but not like a dedicated athlete, you'll still enjoy it. So we do have a few ski resorts in the area. There's the Chattahoochee, the Wolf Ridge, and Beech Mountain. Beech Mountain is probably the better known one at an elevation of about 5,500 feet. And it's the highest one. It's the highest town on the eastern side of the U.S. that keeps the temperature somewhere below 72 degrees all year long. So it's really cool all year long and feels nice. So a lot of people will go there for the summers for the cool weather and the fishing and being outdoors, hiking, mountain biking. And then in the winter, they'll go for sledding and tubing, snowshoeing and skiing. One of the most treasured things and pros of living in Western North Carolina is our local NPR station called WNCW, 88.7 if you're in Asheville, 88.9 if you're in different areas. But WNCW is absolutely life-changing. It is where you hear the very best curated music you could possibly imagine. Of course, they have different programs at different times, but the local DJs just have it dialed. You'll hear music from all over the world, but it's a non-commercial public radio station licensed to Isothermal Community College and located in Spindale, North Carolina. So just south of Asheville, about 45 minutes or so. And the varied format really includes all kinds of different kinds of music, like folks and blues and jazz and Celtic, world music, rock and roll, bluegrass, indie, and of course the news, because it's still an NPR channel. And then WNCW will have the artists into their studio called Studio B for interviews and live performances when they're in town and getting ready to perform somewhere. I have discovered so many of my favorite bands just by listening to this radio station, and you can stream it from anywhere in the world on their website. I remember the first time I rolled into Asheville. I was moving to Asheville. I didn't know that much about it. Asheville was nothing more than a blip on a map at the time. It was not a big national marketing topic that people knew about. And I rolled in, and at the time, I really loved this band called Widespread Panic. And I remember hearing it on the radio. I was in the back seat. My parents were driving. I heard it on WNCW, and I was like, oh, I found my place to live. And it was history from then on. So one of the cons of living in Western North Carolina could be the economy. There's not a lot of commerce and industry here, and historically the Appalachian region struggled with weak economic conditions. Created in 1965, the Appalachian Regional Council, or Commission, the ARC, has implemented thousands of different programs at promoting economic development throughout the region. But some areas of Western North Carolina do quite well, like Asheville and Hendersonville, and you may be able to guess why, because we have a pretty big tourist market. And I mentioned earlier that Hendersonville is a wonderful place for people to retire as well as Asheville. And so people come to the region when they don't necessarily have to still work, or they're coming to visit the region. So we're able to attract a different kind of vibe here in Western North Carolina instead of having it be an economic or industrial mega place. And because things are changing so quickly with technology, places that used to be really important to industry in Western North Carolina, like I talked about Hickory being a furniture manufacturing hub, and then like Canton, North Carolina, outside of Asheville, having a really big paper mill that just recently closed. Things are shifting and changing now. But who's coming to Asheville? Techie people. People from Northern California, Silicon Valley folks. People who can work remote jobs and who can afford to be in Western North Carolina are people who are moving here faster than anyone else. Another pro of living in Western North Carolina is our fabulous free magazine called the Mountain Express. And that is our local business magazine, but it also talks about everything that's happening in Clubland, in town, with events. It interviews local people. It's really hands on the ground where you get to know what the culture and the community feels like in Western North Carolina. So if you come to town and you're thinking about moving here, feel free to reach out to us. Get a copy of that Mountain Express. It'll tell you what's happening and where you should be. And feel free to shoot us a text or an email or give us a phone call if you want. It is our absolute pleasure and passion, really, to help you decide if Asheville's the right place for you to move or maybe it's somewhere else in Western North Carolina. So pick our brains. We're happy to share with you. And let us know in the comments what you think about Western North Carolina. Maybe you already live here and I forgot to mention your place that you live and you want to make sure that I include it or talk about it in the next video. And maybe we haven't made a video on a place that you're interested in moving, so make sure to let us know. So reach out anytime, and until then, ciao for now.